Hello and welcome to our Reflections on Ebola program. I'm Sharif Bojang Jr. and in this second part of my Sierra Leone Ebola diary, I will bring you the story of a Sierra Leonean woman who stands between danger and frontline Ebola fighters. I'll also take you to a legendary Freetown recording studio where some of Sierra Leone's creme de la creme in music gathered to produce a song dedicated to sensitizing the population about Ebola. This is a continuation of my Sierra Leone Ebola diary. In Waterloo, an outer Freetown area on the main highway linking the capital to the provinces, dozens of residents come out of their houses to glance at the Red Cross convoy of 3 four-wheel drive vehicles driving through the narrow streets in their neighborhood. They look nervous, and rightly so. A few weeks ago, this neighborhood was hit by Ebola, and Red Cross vehicles like these ones were used to transport patients from here to treatment centers. As vehicles stop, Usman Kamara, a short, slender, stunned and timid-looking young man wearing white shirt and grey khaki trousers, open the door and start waving at the residents. This is an oasis of joy and relief for everybody here, and they start coming to take a closer look and say hello to him as community leader assured them that Usman is well and cannot infect anybody with Ebola.
Una brother don't worry, just like how the family say, una accept him back, say na normal person.
A few weeks ago, Usman fell ill after contracting Ebola right here in this neighborhood before being taken away in an ambulance. I don't remember what happened to me, Usman says. I have no idea, but I feel fine, he adds. I am glad they gave me medical care at the center. They fed me, they gave me medicine, and they danced for me, Usman concludes. When Usman was taken away, many residents here were not hopeful that he would be coming back alive. But his homecoming seems to uplift the collective spirit of this community.
We're happy. He's our brother. Welcome him.
About a mile away from Usman's house, a family gathers outside to wait for the homecoming of another survivor, this time 13-year-old Kadiatu Bangura. She was taken away in an ambulance a few weeks ago after contracting Ebola. As the vehicle stopped, Kadiatu ran to embrace her brother and then her mother. She can't control her emotions. When Kadiatu fell ill, her brother Emmanuel was by her side until an ambulance came for her.
She was sick. She was feeling bad, vomiting and stooling. And I was afraid, and then I made a call for an ambulance so that they'll come and collect her very early.
While Kadiatu was receiving medical care, life was difficult for her mother and siblings. But Emmanuel never lost hope that her little sister would be back.
Though people were coming with discouraged statements, I said, no, God will intervene. It was not easy for the family entirely, and the people were so discouraged about this news. But I thank God, because when they received the news again that she's back, and then happiness is back in the family.
It will take time before the memories of the Ebola treatment center are completely erased from Kadiatu's head. But for now, she is glad to be in the arms of her family.
Ebola is not good. Okay, happy.
Ebola is not good, but I am okay. I feel happy because I can see my family. It has been too long.
I can see my family. Then don't lose.
Okay, I still is. Okay, it's okay. It's okay.
Stories of survival are the last hope for Sierra Leone, where Ebola has created an atmosphere of fear, stress, and paranoia. And the stories of Kadiatu and Usman are moral booster for everybody involved with the Red Cross Treatment Center in Kenema, where the 2 survivors were treated. Patrick Masakoi is the local Red Cross communications coordinator.
This is a joyful moment for us, the Red Cross, because the 2 people that we have discharged and integrated in the community were the first patients that entered our treatment center.
Frontline healthcare workers are ready to go into the high-risk zone to cater for Ebola patients, and inside a hot and humid tent, 55-year-old Felicia parades the team for dressing. In front of her are masks, face shields, and other personal protective equipment. The back exit door of this tent separates the outside wall from the high-risk zone where patients, most of them very sick and contagious, are admitted.
It's not nice.
Every staff who goes into the high-risk zone to attend to the patients must stop here to go through a well-defined sequence of dressing in head-to-toe protective gear. And it is the responsibility of Felicia to make sure everything is perfect and that the staff are safe to go in.
My coming in here, I was scared. Even my mother told me not to come here. But I came here to save life. I can't dress to go to the war front. I just there to dress them to go.
Felicia was the unlikeliest candidate for this job. A few years ago, she was a petty trader in her hometown of Kenema. She was recruited as a Red Cross volunteer by a relative who convinced her that she would be serving humanity being a volunteer. When Ebola hit Kenema, local Red Cross branch trained her to work in this treatment center. All the staff who comes here to get dressed must exercise maximum discipline because of the risks associated with the task. And Felicia has a no-nonsense look that even scares some people here, and she is very strict about procedures. Because of this, her colleagues call her the Iron Lady.
When I tell them not to go, they will not go. Unless I finish dressing, I tell them to go before taking off to go to the high zone area, you see. They will take my command.
Felicia works here at least 8 hours every day and she loves her job. But back in her house, the family is worried about her being here.
My grandchild, sometimes she fear after work. I reach home, she fear. She can encourage me, Mama, when you go to the center, don't touch anybody. I say, okay. Don't play with anybody. I say, okay. My daughter, the big one, she can't come closer to me because she fear.
Inside here, Felicia is a very important person. She is loved and adored, and her contribution to save lives is immensely appreciated. But outside the corridors of this center, she faces rejection and discrimination.
It's a long story, see, because I'm a Muslim. They don't appreciate me. Even when I enter the mosque to pray, they reject me. People run away from me, but still I can pray, then I step out. Everybody run away from me, my friends.
Pastor James Ngebe sits quietly in his small mud house community church in his hometown of Kenema, holding a Bible in one hand and a Nokia cell phone in the other. Kenema is one of the epicenters of Ebola in Sierra Leone. In his church, Pastor Ngebe introduced a special service when Ebola first hit his hometown to pray against the virus. A few weeks into this service, Ebola struck his family. Still holding firm onto his Bible, he explains what happened.
It started with my elder brother's daughter. She came in contact with the Ebola with a colleague nurse, and after that, she traveled to Kenema and she was admitted. But before these times, not knowing to us that it was Ebola because it was new by them. So my elder brother has to touch her and he has to take her to the hospital. And after she passed away, then my elder brother also was affected and we also lost him. Next, it was the wife of my elder brother.
While Pastor Ngebe was mourning the death of his family, he started experiencing some strange feelings.
It started with weakness. All my joints were weak, poor appetite, and then after 3 days, I started vomiting and diarrhea. And so my wife said we should go to the hospital to do Ebola test. But by then it was fearful to say somebody has Ebola. And so when I went with her to the hospital, they told me that I have Ebola. It was a shocking news to me.
Pastor Ngebe's life, at least at that moment, had turned upside down, and his mind was set on just one thing.
I intended to run away because I thought after getting Ebola, next is death. And so I don't see it necessary to be to the hospital. I was there for 3 weeks. It was horrible anyway. My heart was palpitating and my eyes were bleeding. I vomited blood and I go to toilet with blood.
Pastor Ngebe's nightmares continued for weeks at the Ebola treatment center until one special moment on July 23rd when the doctors broke the unexpected news to him that his treatment was successful and he was ready to go home.
When I was told you have to go back home, I asked the doctors, I said, doctors, are you sure? I asked them again, I said, are you sure? Because I remember I lost my elder brother, I lost his wife and also a daughter of him. So I don't want to go and risk the next family also.
It is stories like Pastor Ngebe's that are giving hope to Sierra Leone, where Ebola has created an atmosphere of widespread fear, confusion, and paranoia. They are young, successful, influential, and career Sierra Leonean women who feel the need to stand up and do something about Ebola in their country. Power Women 232, as they called their group, is a network that brings together professional women and entrepreneurs, from lawyers and communications experts to bankers and businesswomen. The original idea was to promote career advancement and development in all fields through networking, leadership development, social events, and community service. But since the Ebola outbreak, these women have expanded their mission to lend a hand to those who matter in the struggle against Ebola. Yeniva Sise-Sogbe, the president of the network, explains.
Power Women 232 is a social network that started not too long ago, basically to be able to support women in ventures in Sierra Leone. We're businesswomen, doctors, lawyers, and we saw a need for a social network for young, vibrant women in society, which we didn't really have before. And so actually doing these care packages was just a humanitarian project that we came up with. We knew that Ebola had hit, and we had never really heard, besides the American Embassy, heard anyone tell the health workers thank you. And so we put out a call to Sierra Leoneans and to friends of Sierra Leone to say, hey, could you guys give us some donations, anything, packaged goods, donations, cash, things like that. And we put together packages and started delivering them all across the country.
We are at the Newton Hospital in the outskirts of Freetown, and the Power Women 232 girls are here to donate items to the staff. These items include plastic buckets, food, hand sanitizers, and clothes. This hospital started taking in Ebola patients on 18 September, and within 2 weeks, 9 patients died, making the work of the healthcare workers here challenging and fearful. According to Fatmata Koroma, head of the Ebola unit of this hospital, this donation will help make the work less stressful.
For this plastic bag you see they come with, you usually use them on the stool and urine bucket. The other we use them on the vomitous bucket. We can easily wrap that plastic in the buckets. When they are filled with 1 in 10 chlorine plus the feces and urine, we just take the plastic bag from the bucket and deposit it. That makes the work easier than to take the rubber stool. The food is very good because without food, we cannot give medication. So with the food, we can give them medication, help some patients. If they want to die for the moment, they will not die because they have been taking food and drugs.
Health workers like the ones here work round the clock every day in difficult circumstances just to save lives. Since the outbreak, many doctors and nurses have contracted the disease across the country and died, and the pressure and panic are still on. And having people coming out to show love and appreciation for their services will boost their morale, according to Yeniva.
When you're here 12, 13 hours and you're getting stigmatized and someone just comes out of nowhere, you're not expecting it, for somebody to just come and say thank you, I think it'll make a huge impact on a humanitarian level and just a Sierra Leonean level as well. I think that sometimes they're not going to have time to go out and buy these items. So being able to have it at their fingertips means so much.
Power Women 232 started the Ebola donations with small targets, but over the months, more and more people have been chipping in, and the targets are getting wider and wider. Vicky Spencer-Cole, the public relations officer, explains.
Interestingly enough, this whole initiative with us started off, we intended to just do a one-off, just one donation, and it was to be at the Kenema treatment center, the isolation unit in Kenema. And so we did that. We've had the first 2 donations to Kenema, and then the response from the public, from Sierra Leoneans, was just so overwhelming that we've just had to keep going because people have kept on donating. So we've done donations to Mabesane Hospital, which is in Lunsar. They just come out of isolation, the doctors and nurses there, and we did a donation there. We've donated to the isolation unit at Connaught. We've also done a donation for the burial boys, as they're called, specifically, and that's also in Kenema.
It's production night in Salon Times newspaper, Freetown, and reporters are slowly coming in from the field to put their stories together for tomorrow's publication. This is a top-floor, old and tiny office located along one of the busiest and noisiest roads in the center of the city. Until the outbreak of Ebola, Salon Times carries diverse stories from politics to culture on every issue. But since the first Ebola case emerged in eastern Sierra Leone, most of its focus has been on the virus.
My name is Thomas Dixon. I'm the editor of Salon Times newspaper. We've been given prominence to Ebola stories, especially when it comes to contact tracing, when it comes to survival, and also reporting the data, the number of confirmed cases who've been reporting it. And I think it is the print media in Sierra Leone that reported the Ebola when it started in Sierra Leone.
The population is already panic-stricken, and the local media is expected not to make things worse. In recent months, at least 80% of the contents of newspapers here, including Salon Times, have been dedicated to Ebola-related subjects, and young reporters who were reporting about other issues before Ebola are now reporting about just Ebola on a daily basis.
I'm Patrick Jaya Kamara. I work for Concord Times newspaper. Some international doctors came. We reported about that. The 3 days lockdown, that was also covered extensively by us.
I'm Victoria Safa, a journalist at Concord Times newspaper. The recent story that I got after the 3 days lockdown is the amount of the dead bodies, and that publication came recently. And I also done stories on this donation, this Ebola donation money that government is giving to the family of Ebola victims.
It's not just the reporters who entirely focus on Ebola stories, but the editors are also preoccupied with the issue. This is the most challenging period in this country, and reporting Ebola has been as challenging as the virus itself. Though the aim of every media house here is not to spread panic, oftentimes some would carry stories that haven't been verified, and there are still rumors that they cannot afford to ignore. Donald Theo Harding is the president of the Guild of Editors.
Editors are the gatekeepers of what comes out of the paper at the end of the day. As we know that the newspaper is like the international face of the media. The print media is very, very active. It has been very proactive, even at the outbreak of the Ebola virus. Messages have been printed in newspapers. Safety measures have been printed in newspapers. And newspapers go ahead and tell people the success and failures of the government, and we try to keep the government on its toes.
Ebola is the only issue of discussion in Sierra Leone at the moment, and the local media outlets are forced to basically cover just Ebola. Thomas Dixon and Harding explains.
Everything else in this country now is Ebola. In fact, when you go to cover a story or a particular event, people will mentioned Ebola. But we've been reporting also on the economic impact of Ebola. And we've been cautioning Sierra Leoneans, those who are in the habit of increasing prices when it comes to Ebola.
Honestly, we have to talk about Ebola. We need to talk about Ebola. It's a mandate to talk about Ebola. And if we fail in talking about Ebola, then we are failing our nation, we are failing our readers, we are failing the populace. So we need to talk about Ebola.
Like everywhere in the world, journalism is competition, and media outlets often compete for stories and prominence. But with the Ebola outbreak, competitions between media outlets have all been put aside.
The media has been working very, very, very hard in trying to give out the stories, and this is the first time in Sierra Leone the media has been so united. It has never happened in this country. No competition now, we are all fighting because 3 or 4 of our colleagues have lost their lives to Ebola. So I think it's good we come together and fight this scourge.
Tension between the authorities and the local media is there because, according to one journalist, the government has a habit of trying to sweep as much information as possible under the carpet. But whether the media is doing sensational journalism or promoting public health depends on who you ask.
We go bata you, Ebola moto you, tree your place, chapa.
Inside the Bodyguard recording studio in downtown Freetown, 4 of Sierra Leone's most prominent artists gather to sing a tune aimed at sensitizing the population about Ebola. This ground floor modest studio has 2 rooms and a tiny booth for live recording. As the tunes start pumping out of the speakers, more and more fans and friends start coming in, and the artists go into the recording booth one after the other to sing their individual parts in the song.
Come on, Naya, push the la. Sick and tired of the rain, tired of the pain. Papa God, will they call out your name?
These artists are brought together by Jimmy B, Sierra Leone's most successful modern-day artist, and the man credited for taking the country's music to the outside world. Jimmy B, popularly known as the Godfather, is not new to causes like this. During the decade of a brutal civil war here, he had used his influence and artistic stardom on many occasions to sing and preach about peace and reconciliation. And with the silence of guns, everything in Sierra Leone is today being threatened by Ebola, and the Godfather is back in the studio for another cause, another battle.
Ebola is like the biggest threat to national development since the Civil War, and we thought it fit to, as artists, to come together and sort of try to enlighten the masses about this dreadful disease. Sort of our own way of giving back to society, because society has given so much to us.
Sierra Leone has always had a strong musical tradition, and the people of this nation are emotionally attached to their music and musicians. And having the best 4 dueling for a song is just amazing.
Well, these guys, CJ, Wahid and Camouflage and our engineer Fisher are basically the creme de la creme of salon music. They are well known and they've been in the business for a very long time, and these are people whose voices the masses take heed to.
It's your boy Wahid. We consider ourselves opinion leaders in this country. It's a big opportunity, first of all, to be in campaign together with the boss Jimmy, and also we think to be opportune to be a part of Ebola sensitization campaign. We think it's the best thing anyone could offer you right now. Nobody's looking for a name or fame in this one. We're looking out for our family members. We're looking out for our own lives. We're looking for our country's development. Everything is at stake.
After about an hour of recording and re-recording, the final cut is here, and the boys and their producer are satisfied. The single will hit the street this weekend, and the Godfather and Wahid, his protege, are optimistic about the outcome.
When it's finally completed, we will hope that will reach the targeted masses, which is everybody from all walks of life, young, old. And hopefully they will take it and they will listen to the messages in the song and will begin to take the necessary preventive measures against Ebola. Basically, the message is, tenfold, a variety of different topic within this topic.
It's going to command a lot of attention. I can only expect for it crossing borders, going international. Okay. You see, the land that we love, our sweet Sierra Leone. Ebola don't break, we shake, we want for where we home. Oh.
The Godfather and his friends in music have succeeded in contributing immensely to peace in this country. And the story of another strife to end another major challenge begins today in this legendary sound studio. Reporting for WADR, I'm Serif Boyang Jr. in Freetown.
Bye-bye. Ebola for gold. Oh man, we don't tire. We don't tire. Ebola for gold.